behind the guard shed. Oh, I got him with a nade.
Devil's in the detail, in good inside. Oh, a holy crime. But how can I...
Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of The Breakdown. In this series, I'm going to be taking raids that have a high amount of tactical decisions, mistakes, combat and strategy from my stream, and breaking them down into detail here. Before we dive into this, I just want to thank you all for the huge amount of support and love that was shown in my previous video. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and caress that notification bell.
Everything that brought me alive.
Two guys, metal fuel tanks. They're pushing marked. One of the biggest tips I can give for playing Tarkov and succeeding is patience. I could have opened fire here, and we would have engaged these two players in a ranged battle across mediocre cover that would have caused issues and invited us to be third-partied from the night buildings, dome, or even over from K. Instead, we track their movement. We make, or try at least, to make the intelligent decision. We have such a huge advantage right now. We know where they are, where they're headed, and they have no idea that we're stalking them, which means we can approach with confidence and make a better opportunity for ourselves.
I see him. Oh man, yeah, they're around.
Oh, there's a guy in tower, there's a guy in Mark Tower as well. And that right there is our opportunity. Those two players are now almost certainly going to engage the player in Mark Tower, giving us the opportunity to push up and third party their fight that they're pushing towards. So they're about to start fighting. There we go.
Yeah, I've got a voodoo.
Roger, nice. A strategy that has been used for years and years, and it's just as effective in Tarkov as it is in real world combat. I like to call this strategy Overwatch Assault. Hayes has informed me that he has a voodoo, which is a 1x 6x rifle scope, which is very effective over medium to long ranges. I also know he is back on the mounds behind me looking over the fight. This means that I can push up and get into assault range to negate their cover advantage versus Hayes, whilst he supports me from the wider angles.
Oh wow, it's been tagged.
Mark Tower, guy's dead.
Nice. Shit. Okay, coming now.
So this is a smart decision by Hayes. We know the two players that we were stalking originally have moved into Rook and direct cover, and we know that the threat that was up in Mark's tower that Hayes could have helped deal with is dead. So Hayes makes the decision that he's going to move up and join me so that we're too strong in terms of assaulting Rook and taking down the other two players. Just here, behind the guard shed. Oh, I got him with a nade. And here comes the first big mistake. Admittedly, it doesn't cost me my life or anything, but it definitely could have. I see this guy and I panic thinking that he's seen me too, so I just start firing. He hadn't seen me. If I'd stopped, lined up the shot, tapped once, he would have been dead. Unfortunately, the ensuing fight is what happened because of my panic. Hayes, you there? So unfortunately, during this raid, Discord actually went down, and from the point where I killed the guy with the grenade, we had no comms, so that fight was an interesting one. I think I've killed everyone. I don't know if you can hear me, and I just can't hear you, but I've killed everyone, I believe. So let's break down this fight from a wider perspective. Here we have the map of reserve, and I'm just going to zoom this in so that we're only looking at the bit that we really got involved in here. Me and Hayes spawned here. The two players we stalked spawned here. And what turned out to be another duo spawned here. Hayes and myself quickly moved up onto the bunkers to scan for the other PMC spawns, and that's where we saw the first two players pushing through oil tanks. Instead of opening fire, we moved towards their location, with Hayes taking up Overwatch in one of the bunkers, which is when we noticed the player in Mark Tower. The fighting began, with the Marked Tower guy popping shots down on the guy at Guard Shack, and the guy hiding behind the train cart killing the player on the corner of Marked Building. I proceeded to push along the fence, with Hayes covering me from behind, and took a few shots at the guy at Guard Shack, unfortunately missing. Luckily though, these shots baited the Mark Tower guy out for long enough for me to kill him. Now that the threat at Marked had been dealt with, Hayes moved down to help me in pushing the other two players, and I moved back to approach from another angle, because there was a good chance that the Rook players were watching the fence around Guard Shack. This is where I spot the player at the train stoppers as I come around the corner of the train, and quickly dispose of him with a nade, a VOG 25 which has a very short fuse. I did this to avoid threat to myself, as he had spotted me too. At this point, I lost comms with Hayes, and I didn't clock his position until I saw him again at Guard Shack after the fight was over, so I'll be leaving his pin where it is. During this time, the other Rook player had rotated the whole way around to Mark Tower, which is where I next spotted him. I proceeded to approach his location, as I saw him whilst he was running down the tower, and the next time that I saw him, he was on the back corner of Mark Building. This is where I panic shot, and whiffed almost all of my shots. I retreated, threw some nades for cover, and used audio to hear him pushing along the fence. I was ready for him, and killed him as soon as he came into view. And there the fight was over. I pulled back to Guard Shack to be 100% sure that there wasn't anyone else, which is where I relinked with Hayes, and we had comms back soon after. Before I leave you, I just wanted to offer some tips and tricks when playing reserve that may or may not help you win your next fight. The first is that aggression wins, patience survives. Patience isn't cowardice, patience is understanding your advantages. Don't take a shot just because you can. Read the situation and make a plan. Use opportunities to your advantage. Aggression can shock your opponent enough that you win, but it doesn't offer you with a great level of survival. Secondly, use actual tactics and strategies. Crossfire, Overwatch, Sweep and Clear and many others are all things that have been developed by real-world police and militaries, and they work just as well in Tarkov. Thirdly, awareness. Learn the spawns of the map you're playing on, make sure you clear them, and don't think that just because you've checked once, there won't be someone there. I hope you've enjoyed the first episode of The Breakdown. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and caress that notification bell. I'll be back next week with another video, but if you want to catch me before then, I stream Monday to Friday starting at 12 PM BST over at twitch.tv/Timo_Redbeard, and I'd love to catch you there.